Okay, so let's start with a polyline. Click here. I'll go up a distance of 46. I'll go to the left a distance of 131. Offset. Distance will be 20. I'll draw lines to connect the endpoints. Next, I'll create a rectangle. Click this as my start point. And the other endpoint or coordinate that I'm going to need to achieve this should be 20, 46. Next, I'll create one of my slots. And I'll use a polyline. Go this direction, 26. Then I will switch to the arc that's on polyline. Come down a distance of 12. Switch back to line. Go this direction, 26. Select arc. Then close. Let's go ahead and create another one of our shapes that we're going to need. This is going to be the part in the front. So I'll start with a polyline. I'm going to go down a distance of 30. Go to the left a distance of 44. Go up a distance of 30. And since I'm using a polyline again, I'm going to choose arc, and then I'll choose the word close. I'll create a circle at the center of this arc. Circle, center diameter. At this center, the diameter will be 22. On our slot here at the top, let's go ahead and create an offset. So go to offset, make your distance 6, and offset that slot. I'll create one more circle that I'll need later. But now that I think about it, I'll go ahead and save that cylinder for using some of the primitive commands. Let's look at this at an isometric view. Then I'll do some extrusions. So I'll choose extrude, select this shape. And now I do notice that these shapes are two individual ones. So escape out of that command and join them first. So I'll use join and select this shape. And always check and make sure that you're getting one polyline. Okay, now let's use the extrude command. Select this shape and send it a distance of 76. Next, let's go ahead and extrude this shape. And the distance on this one will be 6. I'm going to extrude just this outside shape. And I'm going to make sure that I'm going in the down direction or downward direction, a distance or a height of 6. And with this one, I'm just going to extrude it a very big number, but I'm only going to select this outside one. So I'll go to extrude, select that shape, and I'll come down a distance. Let's make it 80 just to make sure that it's big enough to go through our object. Okay, so now I'm going to start turning some shapes and manipulating them the way I want them to look. So I'm going to switch over to the shades of gray. Then I will take a look at my rotate gizmo. Select the shape, select the red axis, And I'm just going to stand this one up. I'm going to rotate just around to this front view of this one. And now I will put my block on the front of this one. So make sure you hit the escape button twice to clear out the rotate gizmo on that object. Select this one. I'm going to do the red axis first. And that'll get my shape to stand up. Then I'll select the blue axis and get it to go to the side. Now sometimes it is kind of hard to see because I need to get this back midpoint along that midpoint. So what I'm going to do is switch to a wireframe view. Now I'll use the move command. Select this shape. Then I'm going to make sure that I'm selecting this back midpoint. And I'm going to put it at that midpoint. Now this shape should have went up a little bit higher. And it looks like it's off about a distance of 20. So I'll use my press pull. And I'm only going to select just that face. And I'm going to pull it up a distance of 20. These two shapes are almost ready to be union, but I'm going to go ahead and put this shape on first. Then I'll union these together. Okay, so as long as I'm not in 2D wireframe, I'm in the regular wireframe, I'm going to select these two shapes. I'll turn it sideways with the blue axis. And then I'm going to lay this one down flat with the green axis. I will move this shape from this front midpoint to this midpoint. So I'm just using the regular move. I'm selecting that circle and my shape. I'm going to choose this midpoint, going to this midpoint. If I take a look at this in the front view, you're going to see that that shape is sitting sideways, and I need to rotate that shape back at an angle of 45 degrees. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to change my UCS orientation. And then I'm going to tell it to align with the view that I currently have. So I have front selected. And when I select that button, you're going to see my UCS down here should change. So let's select View. And now you can see that my Y-axis is pointing up and my X-axis is pointing to the right. This will allow me to use a regular rotate, and I'm going to use a green crossing window just so I can make sure I get that circle that's on the inside. I'm going to select, this is my point of revolution, and it should be an end point there. And let me make sure that it will only select an end point. And now I can use this regular type in rotation. So I'm going in a counterclockwise rotation, so that number will be positive 45. If I take back and look at it in isometric, and I'm going to switch my UCS back to the WCS, which is the world coordinate system. And I will manipulate this around a little bit. You can see that I do have my shape and it's going right through my object. Let's take a look at that in the shades of gray so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Okay, so the next thing I do is that I see that I have a part of my shape sticking through this and I want to cut it off right at this location. So I'm going to use the slice command. In previous versions, you can remember that slice used to look like a little butter knife cutting through a shape. But it's going to be located here. So I'll select slice. It's asking me what object I want to slice. So I'm going to select the one that's going through my part. After you're done selecting, you're going to have to pick the plane that is the same as your cutting plane that you're going through this option, or this object. So you can see that this plane is going to be the cutting plane, or the way I want to divide my solid. That happens to be parallel to the XY axis. So if I select XY as one of my options, and now it's going to ask me what point on this X and Y plane. I'm just going to choose this endpoint. And then it asks you, do you want to keep both sides or do you want to discard one? I always just tell it to go ahead and keep both sides. And then I'll physically come back and select that and delete it myself. So now if I look at this on the front view, you can see that that is no longer the issue of that object going through. It did slice it and it kept the side that I wanted. I will union these three objects together. So let's go to union. Once again, when you're using the union command, it doesn't matter which order you select these in. But now they're all selected. Next, I'll put my slot that's located on the back. But actually, before I do that, I'm going to wait till I round these corners, and then that way I'll have a center point in common with it. So let's switch over to the fillet edge option. I'll select the radius at the bottom on your command line. 25 would be my radius. Then I'm going to select these corners of what I want to radius. Once you have those two corners selected, remember the enter button to give you a preview, and one more enter will accept it. Okay, so now I'm going to rotate this shape and make sure that you pick both of those objects. You have a solid and you also have a sketch still left over there. I'll choose the blue axis, just get it to come sideways. Then I'm going to move this object, so I'll switch back over to the Home tab here, and I'm going to move it from the bottom center. Remember that you're going to get two centers that's going to appear. Choose the bottom one. And then I want to place it on the center that's located at this arc I just created. So I'll select that center. Let's go ahead and union these two together. Let's do a couple of more fillets. And in this fillet edge, I'm going to change the radius to 6. And I'm going to select that bottom edge that's going around my shape. Now you can either go around this and keep selecting, or you also have a loop option here, where you can select one and it will loop all the rest of them for you. Enter button to give you the preview, and one more enter to accept it. Let's take a look at the cylinders in the front half of this. I'm going to fillet. Radius will be 14. I'll do this corner. And let's take a look at that corner. Okay, next I want to put a cylinder that's going through these, and that cylinder has a diameter of 12. So I'll choose cylinder. You can see that I have this face highlighted, and I'm just going to almost come to the edge to where my center point will show up. And once you have that, and you can see that my face is still blue, I want you to go ahead and select that center point. Look on your command line and select diameter. Type in 12, and then give it a direction to send it. So I'm going to send it through this back face. I'll do that again on the other side just for practice. So let's go to cylinder. I'm going to touch this face to where it's highlighted blue, and I'm going to come down to right where that arc is starting to appear. And then I will select the center point. Choose the word diameter on my command line. Type in 12 and give it a direction. Okay, let's go ahead and subtract those circles out. So I'm going to choose subtract. This is the object I want to keep. And then I'm going to select the two cylinders that I just created. Let's take out the slot here in the back. So we're going to go ahead and extrude that as well. So I'll choose the extrude option. And you need to get to that slot here on this face. Sometimes it's easy enough to pick and sometimes it's hard. Remember that one of the options that I sometimes use if it's giving me a little difficulty is choosing wireframe, extrude, and then I can select that shape with no problem, or that sketch. Make sure that you run that long enough so it's going through your solid. Subtract. I'm going to select this object you want to keep first. Then you'll select out your slot. One more extrusion that we have to take care of is this hole in the front here. And this one has a specific distance that it must go down. And it's telling me that it's 32. So let's use extrude. Select that sketch. Then I'm going to make sure that I'm pulling it through my shape here going this direction. Type in 32. And then go ahead and subtract it. So select your big shape first. Then you can select your cylinder that you just created. Switch it back to shades of gray just to make sure everything looks the way I want it to. Okay, so in this shape I purposely made a mistake that I want to show you how to fix. And I know that sometimes students tell me, or people will tell me that in AutoCAD that they have to usually start over if they make a mistake. So here's a good way to fix a mistake on something that you may have created. So you can see here at the bottom that this shape actually needs to go up a little bit higher. And I think it needs to go up a distance of 14. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to switch back to the Home tab. And underneath the drop down, I'm going to choose the one that says Move Faces. What I'm going to select is I'm going to select the inside of this hole and this one. I'm going to switch just right to the bottom view here, and I'm going to select this face. And this face. Now if I go around a little bit, sometimes you'll see that it will select some extra faces. You can hold down the Shift button and deselect the faces that you don't want. So I'm just going to make sure that I have these faces selected. So I have this arc, this one, the two insides of those cylinders, and this very bottom face. And once you have those selected, hit the enter button. I want you to click a location or a base point, so I'm just going to click somewhere along here. Then I'm going to go up, and you can see that I'm going orthographically up, and it says a positive Z direction. And I'll type in 14. Make sure that you hit the exit and one more exit. And that's how you would repair something that if you did and you noticed that there's a dimension wrong, that you can fix it.